anymore. Since 2018, there have been almost 500 bombings in the towns and cities of a country most people likely still believe mistakenly to be a model of safety and stability, the home of IKEA and St. Greta of Thunberg. It's not just bombs. 47 people have been shot dead so far this year. National Police Commissioner Anders Thornberg is on record describing, quote, an entirely different kind of brutality, close quote, in ghettoised suburbs dominated by immigrants. Since 2000, Sweden's immigration population, those born elsewhere but now resident, has doubled to 20%. Sweden took in more migrants per capita than any other country during the wave of immigration in 2015. Most of the incomers have been young men. At the recent general election, Sweden's most outspoken anti-immigration party, the Sweden Democrats, emerged as the second biggest in Parliament. Those who have voted for the SDs are shouted down, even as news media carry reports of a new trend in so-called humiliation robberies, during which victims are not just robbed but also degraded while their attackers film the abuse. Despite the hitherto unknown levels of violence and crime, still it's hard for Swedes to speak out about the reality of their situation. Those who point to the existence of ghettos, of no-go areas into which fire and ambulance crews will not venture without police escorts, are shouted down as safety deniers. Can you imagine? Safety deniers, whatever next. When will the shouting down stop? Time and time again, those calling out real problems, real danger, are the targets of tactics shaped always and only to silence dissent, to deride and alienate any who seek to give voice to uncomfortable truth, even just to ask a question. On the other side of the Atlantic, in the US, there is no functioning southern border to speak of. The number of those heading north is now of the seven-figure variety. That's unsustainable in every way. Those speaking out are shouted down as racists and xenophobes, as you would surely expect. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is among those that have taken to moving migrants on, putting them aboard planes and buses and transporting them to self-proclaimed sanctuary states whose politics and politicians declare them as fully supportive of new arrivals. No sooner had 50 of those immigrants touched down in wealthy liberal enclave Martha's Vineyard, however, than the allegedly tolerant and welcoming residents had moved heaven and earth to ensure those pilgrims were back on buses and headed out of sight and out of mind before leaving so much as a footprint on the all-white beach. It was ever thus. Those with enough money and the right friends get to preach about how others must live, while being forever insulated against the consequences. Too many people, made guinea pigs for social engineering by holders of influence, have been handed too much to bear. Those authority figures who never had any intention of taking part in their own experiment, but saw to it instead that the inhabitants of distant corners they neither knew nor cared about would have to sink or swim in an ill-judged and excessive wave of newcomers, will continue to do as they please, whilst insisting those beneath them in the food chain should simply shut up. But now is most definitely not the time for dissenting voices to lose their collective nerve. Now more than ever, those with questioning, defiant, contrary voices must find the determination to go on. We face economic challenges of a sort most of us have never before had to contemplate. Furthermore, we've been divided among ourselves as never before. Old certainties have been torn away with nothing desirable to replace them, but we must remember what has been taken and so resolve to take it all back. This is no time for silence. After 2 years like no others, when we've been told to be frightened of each other on account of a disease, of our way of life on account of its impact on the world, of the future itself, it might be tempting to submit. Here's the thing. The shouting and the name-calling are the least of it. After COVID, after lockdown, after war, after crisis, after crisis, after crisis, if we don't make all of our voices heard, and right now, ask yourself, what might they try next?